Hi there and welcome to the Barbara Young channel. Now I'm just about to start another little project and it is a top. It is the Kwik Sew 3756, which is this one. Now you can do this as a dress or as a top, and I'm going to do it as a top, part because of the limiting amount of material I've got, which I'll show you in just a moment. So I've decided that I want to have another go at a stretchy top, and this one I had for a little while, partly because I wanted to be able to have a go at more stretchy materials. Not quite sure how well it's going to work. Some line drawings, and it's got a chart on the side to say how much stretch it needs to have. In the cross it says here, use fabric with 25% stretch across the grain, of which mine does. I think what I've got is something like about 30-35% stretch or more, so it's quite a lot of stretch in that, so that'll work just fine. Not sure on the sizing yet, haven't quite worked out that. From what it says on the back here, maybe a large. I could get away with a medium. I mean, this is very stretchy material. Let's have a look at this material anyway, as I've got it here. Going to be using this. Now, I have used this before on another project on the beach wrap dress, and it's quite nice, isn't it? It's meant to be, I say it's a white background, but it's got a slight blueness to it. I suppose when I washed it, did it get slightly coloured? Maybe, but you've got the palm trees, I take it that it is, pattern that's on there in the black, so that'll be great. And it does have loads of stretch on there, so that will be just fine, I think. So I'm looking forward to having a go with that. What else is there to say about it? Well, because of the stretch I might do a medium, but I haven't decided yet. I've yet to copy the pattern out and that. Now I have to admit that I have already had a look at the instructions, partly because I was just intrigued, and two, because I did wonder if there was going to be any sort of trickiness to it. Now effectively what we've got is, it's the main page. If I have a look at this next one for the layout, and I'm going to be doing the top, you've effectively only got two main pieces. You've got one front piece that's cut on the fold, and with stretchy fabric cutting on the fold, well, not sure about that, and a back piece that's cut in two. So you've got two pieces, so yeah, and a couple of other bits, but you know, they're just more minor pieces. Well, I say minor, I imagine they're quite important, but you know, really it's effectively two pieces. If you're making the dress side, then obviously you need more material, it's just longer, and you've got to cut out sleeves as well. But other than that, that's all there is to it. And yeah, I've had a read of it already. The instructions are a little bit odd because of the way it asks you to do certain things on here. Some of the finishes it says to do sound a bit odd. I'm not quite sure how it'll work out. And there's a couple of little tricky sort of neckline pieces, of which on this, if you look at the shape of that piece number one that's on the fold, now that's an odd shape, isn't it? It's not a standard normal shape, so it's including the neckline and that in its shaping all as part of the cut. So yeah, there's going to be a bit of trickiness to this, I think. So it'll be take my time over it and see how it goes, really. So I think first of all will be to get the pattern copied out, and then start laying it out and see how that looks, and then start to work out, as I'm doing that, what size I really need to be doing. Should I be doing that large, or should I do the medium? Because I think I'll get away with either, because like I say, with the stretchiness of this, I do want it to be a sort of close fitting top, but how close fitting I don't know yet. So yeah, let's get this pattern out, get it copied out, and start seeing where I go with this, especially when I lay it out on this material. Now I've traced out and cut out my pattern pieces, just the pattern pieces. Haven't yet done the material, but I'll just show you what I've got in the way of pieces. Actually, I'll start with this long one. You've got this piece here, which is number 6, which is just there to make, basically looks like a bias piece to go around the armhole for the short sleeve top. You've also got this little piece, which is a facing piece to go on the front. It looks like where the front, that sort of square section is, that's where that's going. But I need to cut one of material and one of interfacing. This does have interfacing, and it requires non-iron-on interfacing, so it's sew-in interfacing, which I do have some, but it's not really quite the right thickness. It's a bit too thick, but it's all I've got, so I'll have to go with it. The next small piece that I've got is this bit, which is this odd weird thing. Now this is cut on the fold, because this is put onto the back of the garment, and it says back stabiliser, cut 1 on fold of interfacing. So you don't cut this out of the material, you cut this out of the interfacing. Okay, I suppose that's to help stop it stretching out across the shoulder and the back area. There we go, that'll be nice and fiddly, I suppose. Then there's the main back piece, which is, I don't know, it's quite long, I suppose. A reasonable length in that. Yeah, cut 2 of those and it's stitched up at the back seam. And then the last piece is the front bit. Now the front bit, at the bottom section, it's just an ordinary piece there, but when we come up to the top, if I can hold it open because it wants to roll up, we've got this weird shaping. This is apparently going to form the back neck piece, and this is part of the front, and this is cut on the fold of the material, stretchy material. Not sure how that's going to go, and there's some strange darting that's got to go in here as well. So yeah, that's all the pieces. So not a lot of pieces, and the most of the work looks like it's going to take place with this front piece and that front facing bit, and to do with this neckline that it's doing. That seems to be where all of the technical parts are, I suppose. I'll find out as I get onto it, I suppose, and it just looks a bit odd and maybe a little bit tricky, so I'm not rushing this bit, I think, really. So the next part now is to get the material actually cut out. Well, that's going to be fun because it's a nice stretchy material. It won't stay nice and neat and stable, will it? So I'm going to have fun trying to cut that out on the fold. Who came up with this idea? Now I've got all my pieces cut out, and I've cut it straight out of my good material. No mock-up this time. Now the reason for not doing a mock-up on this one is, well, one, it's a stretchy material, and I don't really have any, as it were, gash material to do a mock-up, so I only have the choice of doing it straight out of the good material. Now, the thing with this one is it does look fairly simple. There's very few pieces, and this is material left over from another project, so I'm not overly worried, even though I would like to have done a mock-up, but there you go. So first step will actually be to, according to the instructions, is to put a bit of stage stitching in on this front neck piece. Got to put some stage stitching in here, and then following that, the next point is to do with the little darts on the front. I've got to, I don't know if you can see this, I've got to do some trimming in and prepping these darts. So actually I might do that bit first. Or, well, I don't know. I'm going to look at this because from reading it, it looks a little odd, this next step, doing these little darts, or prepping the darts, because I have to, where the line is, I have to cut into the material in the middle of that dart. So I need to make sure that it's properly marked up on here, so I get it on right, because then you're meant to do the facing piece. There's a facing piece that goes on this bit. This little facing piece has then got to go on there on that front bit as well to keep it all nice and stable. So I think this actually, if anything, this first section is probably going to be the most tricky, so I'll have to focus on getting these darts and that marked up so I can cut it properly and make sure that it all goes together nice and neatly. So stage one. Now I've done a little bit of stage stitching on this corner piece and nipped into it, done a snip on that top bit, and then just here, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it'll show up hopefully, I've drawn in the dart and the slit that I've got to cut into that dart, because it says to draw it onto the back of the fabric, so that's what I've done on both sides. So now the next stage is to do that little bit of facing piece that goes in here. So I've made the facing piece, which is eventually going to end up here, like that almost. So what I've got to do now is to trim or to cut into these slots that are going to go inside these little darts. It's a bit weird. Not quite sure how it's going to work, but I've got to cut into those and then stitch this on, you know, right sides together, and then turn it over so eventually it ends up on this side like that. And then, well, let's do that first I think, and see how that goes, because I'm not totally convinced on this. It's a bit goofy, especially as this is all stretchy material, and how it's all going to stay steady. I really don't know, but let's just try it and see how it goes. Now, having put that facing piece on, which is just sort of here, and that's that neckline, then what I've got to do now is got to fold this over, which is the side of it, which is this piece, fold it over, and then I've got to stitch these darts in. And then once I've stitched those darts in, it says to overcast or whatever it is I've got to do along this edge. So I'm then going to neaten that up. Yeah, overcast neckline from here, bottom of the dart, or effectively from this sort of area, all the way up once I put this dart in. I find this really odd. I mean, if this was a woven or something that had very little stretch in it, I could get this, but this is a very stretch material, so I don't know. This is just how they designed the way to be able to get this nice curvature, this neckline on here. I'm not very keen on it, I must admit, but I'll give it a go and see if this dart and the one on the other side goes in okay, and see how that ends up sitting. Now, having put the that front facing bit and done a couple of darts, oh, why? Now it says to do the front stitch the centre back seam collar. This is the seam that's going to form the back of the collar section. But it also says use a straight stitch and press seam allowances open. There. A straight stitch. I don't get this pattern. I mean, this is a stretchy material. Why would I put a straight stitch on a stretchy material? It doesn't make any sense at all. This pattern's turned out to be really, really weird. I just don't get it. Oh well, better stitch it and move on to the next section. Well, I've put the two back pieces together as it's instructed, and then it says to actually put on this neck reinforcing piece, stabilise, that's it, back stabiliser. Now this is cut out of the non-iron-on interfacing, the sewing interfacing stuff. The thing is, I've realised that what I've got here is it only comes out to here, yet the top of the shoulder comes out over to here as a gap, because I think what they've done is they've made this piece to fit if you're going to be doing the sleeved version, the sleeved, that, you know, the dress with the sleeves on it. But if you're doing the top without the sleeves, then what they do is there's a different cut line so that you extend the sleeve out, or the shoulder out slightly, just as like a is it a cap shoulder or something that goes on there. So this only comes to that far, so it doesn't go the whole way. Oh, okay, I suppose that'll be fine. I mean, I've just got to stitch this in on there, and it stops it from stretching out and going all over the place, I suppose. So I better get that in, and then I've got to see about putting the front and back together. So having put the back stabilising piece on there, that's the back piece, I've now got to pin and stitch the front and back pieces together along the neckline and shoulders, because this part is actually forming the neck. That's the hole where your head goes through. So yeah, it's a bit odd. So, but that's hopefully a fairly straightforward stitch to do. So get that together, and then hey, you know, it's starting to look like a top. Now that I've got the front and back together, and I trimmed the stabilising piece, what it says I've got to do now is I've got to take this piece. You can see I've folded it down, which is what it says. You need to fold this neckband piece down, pin it down so it's just a bit over that piece that I'd put in, the stabilising piece on the neckband. But then it says I've got to stitch it in the ditch, which means I've now got to stitch it from that side to secure it down. So I put the pins in, so now I'm going to have to re-pin it from this side to make it all work. Well, they don't make it easy. This really is. Let's get on with it, I suppose, and see how it goes. Well, I've got the front and back together, and I've finished this neckline, which is a bit, oh, it's okay. It seems to come out alright. You get this sort of almost square frontage on there, and this neckband piece, it's okay. I mean, I could tidy this up. It's not overly neat. Trouble is, I didn't cut it particularly brilliantly because I'm not very skilled at cutting stretchy materials. I tend to be a bit messy when I do that. So I could always trim this back and neaten it up and make it a bit nicer, because it won't fray, being a stretch knit. So all I've got to do now really to finish this off is the armholes, of which I'm meant to be using some bias binding that I've cut from this material, a strip that I've cut, and then I've got the hem to do, just to hem it up a bit to clear off that bottom rag. I don't necessarily need to, but I don't want a ragged edge, even though it won't necessarily fray. So the thing I need to do now is these armholes, and here it is, the finished top. Now it seems to come out alright, and I do like it. I think the pattern choice for this material, or shall I say the material choice with the pattern on it, seems to be just right, because it's slightly busy but at the same time not overly busy. That sounds right, I don't know, it sounds a bit odd, but yeah, it is a nice top, and it feels comfortable enough, and there you go. So all done, hemmed up with this slightly odd neckline that it has on here. No sleeves on this, but this like little cap sleeve piece, with some binding tape on the sleeves, on the cuffs, or as it were. It's not cuffs, is it? It's just sleeve head. So there you go. And yes, I do like it. It seems to fit really quite nicely. And with this little straight edge design here, it's a bit of an odd design, but seems to work well. Seems to have got it in there just about, and like I say, binding tape on there. And this is not normal ordinary bind tape. This is the type of stretchy fold over elastic binding that you would normally use on, say, like underwear, but it just seemed the easiest thing to do. I could have made it out of the same material as this, but I couldn't be bothered, to be quite honest. And then we've got this nice neckline piece that's actually a part of the whole garment. So yeah, very nice. So another nice little top done, and it is a nice little top. It does feel nice because it is a stretch. It's a jersey or knit stretch. It does feel really, really comfortable. So I think I'll enjoy wearing this. Now, I have to say that it wasn't the easiest thing for me to make, but then that was part of the reason for making it. I wanted to go outside of my comfort zone and try and make something that I wasn't used to. And I chose this one, partly because I liked the styling of it, that neckline, this sort of squarish neckline. I liked the look of that, but also because it seemed to be a fairly simple affair. Supposedly, all you've got is one front piece and two back pieces, and that's pretty much it. There's not a lot else to it other than that. So a simple design, and I'm sure as somebody who does stretch fabrics all the time would probably make this quite quickly, but for me it took a while, but it was enjoyable to make because going outside of my comfort zone really meant that I was sort of testing my abilities and also learning more about using stretchy materials and making with it. It's not that I haven't made anything, because I have made a few things with stretchy. It's just not my normal to do stretchy materials, but actually it was fine. So I think anybody that likes to make stretchy stuff will get this down and done pretty easy. So yeah, all in all, a nice make and a nice little top. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I look forward to seeing my next video. Bye.